I wanted to share this article that I found. It was from July 7th, 2017 by Adam Eliyahu Berkowitz from Breaking Israel News. And I thought it was kind of interesting because the date was 7/7/17. And this article was titled, "Is Underground Construction Under Jerusalem Preparing for the Third Temple? No, but..." I just want to start off by saying that the underground chamber that you've seen that somebody said was the temple is not the temple. I believe that that's the chamber of hewn stone that the Sanhedrin used to meet in thousands of years ago. It was underground and it was stone, and they meet with other people from other nations there. So that's not the temple. The temple's going to be built on top of the Temple Mount. So even though this construction was not happening as this gentleman thought, it's very interesting what it says about getting the cooperation of the Arabs to build the third temple. So I'm just going to share this article real quick. And even though this wasn't happening back then, it shows that they are really, talking about it. And in 2017, I guess the assumption was made because many articles said that they were preparing to build the third temple at that time. So that they were preparing, to start it. And here we are in 2020. But let me just read this. I thought this was a very interesting, eye-opening article anyway. When Philip Gilchrist, a non-Jewish architect from New Zealand, visited Jerusalem on Tuesday, now this was in 2017, he was shocked to see what he was sure were the beginnings of construction of the third temple. Gilchrist mistook simple maintenance, shoring up of the bases of the walls, for pre-Messianic construction. But his innocent mistakes bear a powerful, fully inspirational message. And even though it wasn't happening, it's kind of exciting how close we are to the appearing of Yeshua HaMashiach. Gilchrist, who prefers to be called Yochanan ben Yosef, Gil Yisrael, has had a long-standing, long-distance relationship with the temple. He has run his own architectural firm in Dunedin, New Zealand, for over 15 years. He was physically distant from the Holy Land and has no family connection with Judaism, though he is investigating his genealogy. When he was studying architecture at Auckland University, his father, a devout Christian, asked him to do an illustrated study of the tabernacle. Gilchrist complied, later adapting his labor of love to be submitted as his final thesis. His study included the temple and its utensils. After arriving in Jerusalem last week, back in 2017, and touring the Temple Mount compound, Gilchrist toured the tunnel complex that runs underground adjacent to the retaining walls of the Temple Mount. The tunnel complex is open to the public and is undergoing renovations intended to strengthen the ancient walls supporting the structure above. At the same time, archaeologists were weaving through a political minefield in order to study the unique site. When Gilchrist viewed the construction, he was shocked. Quote, "I was sure that what I was seeing was the beginning of construction on the third temple," Gilchrist told Breaking Israel News. "As an architect, I know that if I was charged with the project, that is precisely the way I would set about doing it. You don't start at the top, you begin with making the foundations strong." Perhaps more amazing was that the work was being carried out by Muslims who seemed quite happy to be working on the Jewish temple. Perplexed by what he had seen, Gilchrist consulted with Rabbi Chaim Glorfini, who has written authoritative books on the Third Temple. Rabbi Clorfini assured Gilchrist that the construction had not been contracted by any authority higher than the Israeli government, but the conversation had a powerful impact on the rabbi. Unless there is some fantastic hidden plan, this isn't construction for the temple, Rabbi Clorfini said to Breaking Israel News. The Arabs would be screaming about it, end quote. But Gilchrist's enthusiasm and refreshing, simple perspective had Rabbi Clorfini reconsidering. Quote, "It is significant that in the workers are Arab Muslims," he said. "We have an oral tradition that the Arabs are going to be the first ones to accept the Noahide laws." Shock. Rabbi Clorfini cited Rabbi Shalom Mashak, former chief rabbi of Haifa, who said that temple will be built when the Arabs beg us to build it. And that statement kind of made me wonder if a war will come first, and then they will humble themselves to that position to want to do it. Temple Movement Chairman Yaakov Heyman would have preferred Gilchrist's conclusion to be accurate. He knew that the construction surrounding the Temple Mount was ongoing and not connected to any greater messianic vision, but as a professional building project manager, he understood Gilchrist's confusion. Quote, "They are always digging there for archaeological reasons and occasionally for preservative construction," Heyman said to Breaking Israel News. "It is frequently the cause of controversy. It is true that if construction for the Third Temple were to begin, it would probably look something like this, shoring up the foundation. The first phase of building the temple would be minor construction, creating spaces for Jews and Christians to worship," Heyman said. "That wouldn't disturb anything that already exists. It is possible that there won't be any controversy surrounding that. The next step, as the Jewish sources describe, is when the other nations, including Islam, beg us to make the Third Temple," Heyman noted. Gilchrist is continuing his tour of the Holy Land, and there may be more surprise observations in store. "Why does it take an architect from New Zealand to see this?" Gilchrist asked. "Someday this is going to happen. Millions of people are praying for this. But if you are here, you won't notice it, even when it's happening in front of your eyes." So apparently they were just doing renovations. They had scaffolding. It was going up underneath some of the arches, and they were shoring them up. And as an architect, he thought that they were strengthening the foundations to prepare for the building of the Third Temple. But apparently that was wrong. But then there's other hints that it's a possibility, I think, just based on the statements of these rabbis. And if this is the case, and we are now in 2020, I'm sure that pretty soon they will be shoring up the foundations and preparing the way if they haven't started that already. So we know, like I said in my last video, remember that Daniel's 69 weeks pertained only to Israel. And so Daniel's 70th week, the last 7, pertains only to Israel. At the time, the church did not exist, and they were not part of that. They're not part of that prophecy to fulfill it, because it has to do with the redemption of Israel. So it makes sense that, like I said, in the first coming of the Messiah, when he was cut off, that started, the Jewish temple was then destroyed after he fulfilled his testimony of dying on the cross, being buried and raised on the 3rd day. And then after that, as he predicted, no stone would be left upon another that would not be torn down. So the Jewish temple ceased to be for the time of the church age. And then, as I said in my last video, I realized that at the second coming of the Messiah, that Jewish temple will be standing again, and he will come at that point to redeem Israel. So the church age is just the gathering in of the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled, which ends the age of grace. So we will have been gathered in, and so that's why there's no mention of the church in Revelation after John saw the heavenly throne, is what I mean, up in heaven. And he saw those elders wearing the crowns. And the crowns are given to the Christians. That's what the Lord promised them. And if you go back and read some of Revelation 2 and 3, you'll see about the crowns being with the Christians there. So anyway, this article from 7:7:17 is interesting because they are expecting the other nations and Islam, Muslims in particular, the Arabs, to join in with the building of the temple and being all excited asking them to build it. So it'll be interesting since we're much further down the road. We must be getting very close. So I wanted to share that article from 2017. And I just wanted to reiterate that the temple will be built on top of the Temple Mount. In fact, I think Rabbi Chaim Richman, when he was director of the Temple Institute, stated in the Jerusalem Post quite some time ago that they plan to build it where the Dome of the Rock is. You know, I've heard them say just north of there, so we'll see what happens. But all of this is just kind of some exciting thoughts that our Savior is about to appear pretty soon. I just wanted to share it, and I hope you're blessed by this video too. Please support me and my channel. I'm not sure how much I can keep going if I don't get any support. So I ask you for your help, and also for my book to be prospering. Thank you for those of you who've bought my book that have told me that you're loving it. And it's not like any other book. It's got revelations that have never been seen before. And it's for the last days to reveal the true Messiah, particularly to Israel. So that's all I have to say. Shalom for now. This is so neat. There's a crescent moon, and straight up above is a star. Just in almost perfect alignment.